Casual magic is about finding the little things in every single day that are casually magic and training our brains to look for joy in new ways. Hi, my name is Jade and welcome to this festive special episode of Finding Your Casual Magic. If you're watching the video version of this episode, then you will see we've got some festive lights, we've got some tinsel going. We've actually swapped out the salt lamp, the iconic salt lamp, for this cozy little festive bundle of wintry lights. So if you're listening to this as it's coming out, I hope you're feeling in festive spirits. I'm recording this as it's coming to the end of 2024, which is crazy to say. I feel like this year has both felt like it's gone on forever and passed by in an absolute flash, and it's going to be 2025 in a few days. It's mad. Today's episode is super special to me because it is a big reflection moment. It is a casual chit-chat Q&A. So many of you guys have sent me questions on Instagram and by email about my year, reflecting on all sorts of topics from career to love life, queerness, feeling lost in your 20s, feeling insecure, struggling with being on your phone too much and social media. And we're just going to get into so many important topics in this episode, driven by you guys. And I really hope that this feels like a safe space to pause, take a moment to really reflect on all that has happened in this year for you, the good and the bad, and to really decide what energy and intention you want to carry into your 2025. So crazy saying 2025. It is genuinely such a joy, as always, to be hosting this podcast and that you guys are in this corner of the internet with me. So many like-minded people all around the world, all of us interested in self-growth and introspection and trying to find optimism in an objectively difficult world. And it's an honor. It's always an honor. I love you guys, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. One of the things that I love most about winter and the days getting darker is this season of hibernation and introspection. And I don't know about you, but I genuinely romanticize this little special magic time of the year so much. I love the limbo period in between Christmas and New Year's. To me, it is just the most reflective time of the entire year. You can burrow inside, you can go through your camera roll, look at everything that happened this year and really start to get creative and manifest for what you want to come into this new season of your life next year. As always, I like to start every episode with a short meditation. I love to invite you to be here with intentionality, to use this time and space as a true break from the hectic whirlwind of the rest of your life where there's a million notifications and a million things going on. I dare you to put on airplane mode, put on do not disturb, try not to scroll while listening and just really be here, really allow yourself to reflect with me. I always find that I get more out of long form content when I'm fully present with it. So without further ado, find yourself a quiet little space and let's breathe for a few seconds. I hope in the next minute you feel lighter, you feel clearer, and you come back excited to reflect on this year. Take a second to notice where you are in space. Are you in a room? If so, how big is the room? Are you outside? What can you see? And if you feel comfortable to do so, gently close your eyes. Start to become aware of your breathing. Notice where you can feel the breath in your body. Maybe noticing the rise of your chest and belly at the inhale and fall on the exhale. Imagine yourself rooting down into the ground, feeling grounded and aware. And notice if you're carrying tension anywhere in your body. If you can, try to allow that tension to release at the exhale. We're going to do a final 4, 6, 8 breath, where you'll take a deep inhale for 4, hold it for 6, and then exhale for 8. So when you're ready, deep inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold at the top for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And big exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When you're ready, softly open your eyes. Welcome to the episode. Okay, guys, there is only one tool that I would recommend to reflect on your year and to set New Year's resolutions or set intentions. There is this free resource online called Year Compass. And ever since I found out about it, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I cannot imagine entering a new year without doing it. It is life-changing. This is not sponsored. It's literally a free resource. It's a booklet, or they also have an attached Notion doc. So all the questions on Notion page, if you prefer that way. And it just is the best way to reflect. They ask you questions about all the different areas of your life. They ask you what you're most proud of, what you've achieved this year, what's challenged you, what area of life has maybe felt like the biggest theme of this year, whether it's family or career, relationships, self-growth. Every single year of our lives is so different, and it's really important to make the time to reflect on what has happened and process it and let those learnings then guide how you want to shape this next year of your life. So I have been doing my year compass, and I'm so excited because on New Year's Eve, me and 3 of my best friends, we are getting an Airbnb in the middle of nature, and we're going to fill out the rest of our year compasses together and share our reflections on the year and share our intentions for the coming year. I'm such a grandma human. That is my absolute dream New Year's Eve vision. I don't need to be in the club. I don't need to be at some giant party when the clock strikes midnight. Let me be holed away, journaling, reflecting. That is my dream. So I'm very excited. But yes, if you are looking how to reflect on this year in a guided way, you've got to do it. I can't recommend it enough. Okay, before we jump properly into the Q&A, I would love to give you a few of my reflections on this year that I've come to from starting to do my year compass. And so many of you guys have been asking about what I'm most proud of this year, what's challenged me this year. So let's do a few reflections. One of you asked, what are you proud of this year? Are you proud of yourself this year? And the answer better be yes. And I love that, because for all of you, no matter how it feels this year has gone, the answer better be yes. You better feel proud of yourself. Because guys, life is not easy. Life is not simple, right? Even if it feels like nothing has gone to plan, even if it feels like every single New Year's resolution that you set yourself for 2024 has not been accomplished, please feel proud of yourself, because merely existing, merely living days as you do is something worthy of being proud of. And often we don't always get what we want, we get what we need. We get the growth that we need. Funnily enough, when I came into this year, I was not expecting to break up with my partner of nearly 4 years. I had this tiny niggling doubt in our relationship that had been there for about the last year of our relationship, but I was very much doing my best to silence it. And so when I was setting my grand ambitions for the year, I was not thinking, how can I end this relationship? And yet looking back, that is what I am most proud of. That is the accomplishment I'm most proud of. It's nothing that you'll see on LinkedIn. It's not a goal that required discipline or something I set for myself. It is the hardest decision that I've ever made in my life, because if you have ever been in a relationship and then realized you need to break up with someone you love because it is the best thing for you, there's nothing more heartbreaking. And I still very much love him now, but I had to do what was best for me. And so I'm so proud of myself for leaning into the courage to make that choice. And every single day since I listened to that gut feeling telling me to break up with him, and I just did it. I chose that decision, and I had no idea what the other side would look like, but I just chose to do it anyway. Life has gotten better. And I have continued to feel like the most authentic version of myself, because your gut feeling never lies. So if your gut feeling is telling you to make a decision, you need to do it. Jade, what was your biggest success of the year? Guys, starting this podcast has been the biggest joy, the biggest success, the biggest achievement of 2024. So much heart, so much work has gone into this podcast. I wanted to start it over a year ago, but I kept putting it off because I just wanted it to be right. I wanted it to feel like an outpouring of love every single time. I wanted to have a set that would feel like a cozy home. I wanted to find a team who I felt like I just clicked with. Like they understood the vision. They understood that this endeavor for me is not about making money. Like I lose money with this podcast. I'm not here to make money. Like I literally, because I pay to have it edited and stuff. Like I'm doing this as a labor of love. I'm doing it because I believe in the mission of inspiring mindfulness in young people and to find a team who understood that vision, you know, like I don't need this to scale to be the biggest podcast ever. I just want it to be something that you return to because it feels like a place of love and intentionality. And so to have launched the podcast and also to have been as consistent as I have been, showing up here every single week to pour my heart out or to interview such incredible guests and to have the branding and everything feel the way that it does, it's been such a joy. I feel so grateful every single day that this podcast exists and that you're here. So that's my biggest success of 2024. And not because of the numbers, not because of the reviews, but literally because of the intrinsic process of creating it. And I just feel good about it. I love this podcast. Jade, what has been your biggest life theme of the year? E.g. family, career, personal growth, travel, going out of your comfort zone. To me, the biggest theme has been relationships, struggles in relationships, you know, having to learn how to navigate a breakup, losing love, opening my heart again to finding love, really cultivating deep platonic love and friendships that feel like family. I've never felt closer to my parents. I've never felt more held by a network of friends all around the world. This is my year of relationships. It's been a lot of introspection, a lot of inner growth, but also a lot of feeling loved and giving love. This was definitely not my year of career. God, I feel so lost. I feel so uncertain. But as we've learned in other episodes of this podcast, life comes in phases and you don't have to have every single part of your life figured out all the time. You can focus on different areas at different times and that's okay. Also, to everyone who asked a question, I'm going to keep your names anonymous because some of you have asked for that. So no shout outs, but you're honoured in love, in heart and spirit. Jade, wie ist dein Deutsch? How is your German? Okay, if you've been following me this year, you would know that I made it my goal to become conversational in German. I love German. I studied in Berlin for over a year. My mum is also Dutch, so German is very similar to Dutch and just feels very homey as a language. I also love languages. Like I always want to be learning at least one language for the fun of it. I don't need to be fluent. I just love the process and the journey. And guys, I am so proud to say I am now conversational in German to like about an A2 B1 level. I especially understand very good German. My grammar's a bit rubbish. My vocabulary is very good. And in June, I went backpacking around Germany for a month and it was genuinely one of the most life-changing trips. And I just felt so confident in my German, and it's so special how a language can open up an entire world of speaking to new people. If you guys are interested in learning a language and are wondering how I got good at German so quickly, I'm not going to gatekeep. There is only one platform that I would recommend to learn a language, and it is not doing your Duolingo streak every day. I had small group classes online with a native speaking teacher and a small group of people from all around the world every single week, and literally, the curriculum was incredible. I did it through an online language learning school called Lingoda, and I paid for the course myself. I've used Lingoda for years. But this is very exciting to say that this podcast today is very kindly sponsored by Lingoda. Also, can I just say that this is the first ever sponsor of Finding Your Casual Magic, and it just means the world to have the support of brands that I really love. And I'm just so selective with letting any brand touch my baby projects, and I would only ever work with companies that I really genuinely believe in and I think could benefit you to have a discount on. So yeah, it's so cool that Lingoda are involved today, and I'm just so grateful for their incredible platform. Lingoda is amazing because it's so effective, but also so fun. Like, I looked forward to every single class. You just get to yap with people from all around the world in your broken language. You can study English, business English, French, Spanish, German, of course, and now even Italian. The curriculum is designed by language experts, and they do an initial test at the start to place you best based on your language ability. And you can book classes at flexible times, so you can do it around your schedule, especially if you're a busy student. Guys, you'll be so amazed how much more quickly you learn a language when you're doing it with other people rather than doing it on your own. Like, progress is so quick when someone is correcting your pronunciation. So good. They have a 7-day free trial. So if you're interested in trying out 3 group classes, you can go do that trial, or you can also get a free private one-on-one class just to test it out. And I'm so excited because just for you guys listening to Finding Your Casual Magic, you can get 10% off a Lingoda Flex membership and up to 45 private classes in your first 3 months when you sign up with my code New Year Magic. That's NEWYEARMAGIC. I feel like a radio host saying that, and you can find it in the show notes. Good luck with your language learning journey. One of you asked, do you regret not posting about your relationship when you were still in it? So for context, I was in a relationship for nearly 4 years. And I never shared about it. Guys, literally, I would live with him and record a morning routine and just intentionally not have him in it. Like, he would be behind the camera vlogging for me and you just wouldn't know. And I don't know if you know Ali Abdaal and Izzy Seeley, they're YouTubers, but they were dating for, I think, 3 or 4 years and no one knew. And then one day they just posted a photo of them kissing at their wedding. And they were like, surprise, we're together and now we're married. And I kind of love that. I kind of love that version of hard launch. And I think I have just witnessed so many friends sharing their relationships online, friends who are public figures, and how it has negatively impacted their relationship because of the nature of fame. It's weird to even call myself famous, but I guess when people know about your life, then you are considered somewhat famous. You know, I know friends whose partners have received death threats, who have had private information leaked. There's all the privacy stuff, but then I also find it quite scary to have an entire audience invested in a relationship that they really know nothing about. It's so scary to imagine people commenting like, oh, I haven't seen your partner in a while. Are you still together? Is everything okay? And just having this parasocial level of investment in a relationship. It's not for me. I really value the people in my life and I want to protect them to my best ability. And I'm very glad that I didn't share my relationship, to be honest. It's not to say that I would never share a future relationship. I think I might, but I will always do it in a very mindful way. Hi Jade, I'm going through a breakup and it is utterly tearing me apart. What advice would you give me to help with the pain? If you are going through a breakup, I just want to send you the biggest hug. There is no pain that comes even close to the pain of heartbreak. Because romantic love scratches an itch that is extremely close to what makes us who we are at the most human of levels. Everything in the realm of romantic love is related to how we were raised, attachment issues, parents, childhood. You know, those first 5 years of our life are the most formative to our brain chemistry and personalities. Like, you can look at all the developmental psychology. Everything about our childhood shapes us. And when we fall in love, so many of the patterns of who we fall for, how those relationships go, how we deal with things like loneliness, dependency, that really comes back to our childhood and who we are at our core, and patterns that maybe we haven't healed yet, haven't looked at. If you are struggling and you feel embarrassed about how much your heartbreak is wrecking you, please know that you are going through a challenge that is incomparable in its level of suffering. And it's different to the struggles of things like poverty or war-torn countries. Like, these are levels of suffering that are also extreme. But do not minimize just how ravaging heartbreak is. I remember after my breakup, I felt like a total shell of myself. And my biggest piece of advice would be, please feel your feelings. Please make the space to hold yourself as you navigate these tough moments. You are not only allowed to cry, you are encouraged to cry, because breakups are like mourning a death, right? There's so much grief involved. This person was part of all of your routines, all of your day-to-day life. My therapist put it so brilliantly. She said, it is your old brain chemistry with this person dying. It is literally the death of that brain chemistry, because your entire brain, your entire way of being has learnt to adapt to this person being there. And it is so painful to have to continue living life around that new hole that has formed. But I promise that it will heal, and it will only heal as you continue to lean into the feelings. So allow yourself to feel. Sensitivity is a strength. And also just think that the more you process this, the more capacity you will have to love open-heartedly in the future when you find your dream person. Also, I just want to say that my partner who I broke up with in January, February time, we're now friends again, and we could not have been friends if I didn't really go through the agony of processing that breakup and him also doing that work, and both of us going to therapy and really sitting in the feelings. And now we have a really healthy friendship. So it is possible to be friends with your ex. It obviously depends on the situation. But yeah, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and you can carve the future of your relationship as you guys want to. Okay, queerness. Questions about queerness. So if you guys didn't know, I am proudly queer, and I have had the longest, most difficult journey to overcoming internalized homophobia. I am from a small town where I had absolutely no queer representation. I went to an all-girls school where I did not know a single queer girl in that school. I think it was a very homophobic environment. Like when you meet people from mixed schools, they'd be like, oh, because you go to an all-girls school, like you're all lesbians, right? Ha ha. And because of that, no one was a lesbian. So it was very taboo to even have a single thought of potentially liking girls. And if that thought existed in secondary school, let me tell you, it was suppressed. I did not start to deal with the possibility of my sexuality until I was like 20. That was like the first seeds being planted. But it is not until right now, me in December of 2024, that I feel like I now really own it, that I'm really authentically myself, that I can say openly on camera that I'm queer, and for that not to feel like a big deal, not to feel scary and awful. And quite a few of you have asked me, how do you work on overcoming internalized homophobia? This is a long journey. Please be compassionate with yourself as you start to deal with this, because it's so embedded in the deep psyche of who you are, from all the media you've consumed, from all the beliefs of your family, from all the traditions that we're raised into in this heteronormative world. It is difficult to be queer. For example, I used to say, oh yeah, I think I could kiss a girl, but like, I just can't imagine living life with one, could definitely never date a girl, could never get married to a girl. But you know why I couldn't imagine it? Because I had no representation of two feminine looking women getting married and living a life together without a man successfully. It wasn't that wasn't a desire of mine, it's just that I couldn't imagine it because I didn't have the representation, and that is its own brand of internalized homophobia. And so maybe even start to recognize within yourself, where are you putting limits on your potential to live out queer joy and queer love? I really recommend therapy. I really recommend finding queer friends, a queer community who will hold you as you navigate the difficulties of working out who you are and all the intricacies of it. I owe my friends at Minerva everything, because they have watched me cry in the middle of the night in my bunk bed about not wanting to be gay. They have seen me, go to clubs and feel terrified to wear eye gems and blue eye makeup because I just so badly wanted to be straight and to be what I thought was straight presenting. But when you're in the presence of truly open-minded, loving people who are queer themselves, it gives you the freedom to be who you truly are. My advice for my little baby gays is to find queer community, to take things slow, to be kind to yourself, to find queer role models on TikTok and social media to give yourself the representation that traditional media is not going to give you. And then to be brave and to just try, go on dates, change your Bumble to the other gender, and it will come. Trust me, it will come. And like me, I just feel the most authentically myself that I ever have in my whole life. And that joy can be yours too. Okay, questions about podcast. What kind of planning goes into the initial stages of creating a podcast, e.g. before you start recording? So much. So I decided that I wanted to get a team. I realized there's no way that I can manage having a weekly podcast unless I enlist the help of some people to help me edit it and help me film it, because I'm so bad at like filming camera stuff. Like, I love having these 3 cameras here. Like, I would have no idea how to set up these cameras. I'm so glad that my team have done this for me. And then also there's this whole element of branding, right? Like, I want it to tell a story. I want things to be consistent. I want to have a mic cover that has a sparkle on it. I want to find a set that feels like mine. I actually visited almost 20 different sets to try and find the perfect one. And I ended up going for an Airbnb that I negotiated to turn into a set. And it's just perfect. But yeah, so much work to find it. Things like creating a jingle, deciding the topics, deciding the format of every episode. Things like having a meditation at the start. I consulted meditation experts to come up with about a 90-second meditation that would actually help change people's brain chemistry and activate the parasympathetic nervous system and encourage you to breathe. Then there's making a social media page, there's doing promo, making sure that I can commit to doing an episode every single week. How is that workflow going to work? How am I going to review all the episodes, write the timestamps, do the thumbnails? It's a lot of work, and I do it with joy because I really love this corner of the internet, but it's a lot of work. And obviously you don't have to do a video podcast. I think it's much easier with audio. But I spoke to the people at Spotify and they told me to do video. And when the people at Spotify tell you to do something, you do it. Oh, one of you asked, are you planning to do a meetup? One of my biggest goals for next year is to do more in-person community events. So please tell me what you want to see. I really want to think about what my dream casual magic in-person community meetups look like. Maybe including journaling or meditation, an open space to share with strangers, forming like a sisterhood, brotherhood vibe. Like I don't know yet, but I definitely want it to happen. So thank you for expressing this. Oh, world issues and resilience. Jade, can you talk about climate change? The world feels so heavy. I relate to this so deeply. I don't know what it is, but like the majority of my closest friends work in climate or in climate. So one of my best friends is in climate policy, another one is in climate tech as a software engineer, and another is a climate activist. And they help me feel both continually tapped into the news and recent updates about climate, but also remind me of just how bad the world is and how recent changes in politics are exacerbating our climate problems massively. And, I recently went to Vietnam to visit some of my best friends from Vietnam, and it's terrifying when you look at the climate predictions. Vietnam, it's not going to be doing well. It's not going to be doing well with sea level rise and, freak weather. And you just think about how the world's going to look in 50 years, and it's terrifying. And as just a normal everyday person, can feel very crippling, the weight of these political decisions and, the lack of change and just feeling that momentum towards a future that feels sometimes quite hopeless. And someone asked, how do you become resilient in an ever-growing, stressful world? And I actually don't have answers. I really struggled with this. And we can't do everything, right? Like, you can't wake up every day and like work on every world issue. There's always going to be so much suffering. And I think for me, as long as I know that I'm doing something that I feel is of positive impact, like on my platforms, I'm always trying to spread messages that I think make the world a better place. I'm trying to create safe space for people to come and remember their humanity, restore faith in humanity. Whether you're organising with a local chapter of a political organisation that you really care for, or educating people on how to vote, having difficult discussions, you can only do so much, but we should all be doing something. And I think as long as we are sustaining action towards the world that we want to see, then we can sustain our hope. And yes, the world is dark. Hope is brighter. Hope is the light in a dark world. And just thank you for asking these questions, because it shows that you care and that you haven't forgotten your humanity, and that when you see potential suffering, that you want to do something about it. And please may you retain that, even if it feels emotionally heavy to feel the suffering of the world. Please keep feeling it. On this vein, a lot of you asked, how do you practice casual magic when the world is so bleak? Where is the line between casual magic and toxic positivity? As the creator of casual magic, do you think that there is a right way to practice it? And it's hard, it's a hard one. I'm not gonna tell you to be positive and joyful all the time because it's unrealistic. Firstly, as humans, we must always feel the full range of all of our fluctuating emotions: anger, joy, sadness, pain, anguish. We only recognize happiness through not feeling it all the time. We only know joy because of the contrast that sadness offers. So firstly, it's unrealistic to be happy all the time. But secondly, other emotions are so important to mobilize us to do things for the betterment of the world. When we feel anger about injustices in the world, that's important because it inspires us to do something about it. For me, casual magic isn't toxic positivity because it doesn't ask you to ignore the hardships of the world. If anything, it asks you to, in spite of the difficulties of the world, in spite of the dreariness or challenge that your normal mundane day might present to you, can you find at least one little thing that is good? Can you remind yourself of your own humanity? Can you remind yourself that there is hope? And ask yourself to find at least one little thing that is beautiful, one little thing in your surroundings to find joy within, one moment with a stranger that reminds you that strangers are good. And I really believe that if everyone cultivated a practice of looking for casual magic, of reminding themselves that the world is magic, the entire world would be a better place. And we should not feel guilty for prioritizing our joy, because joy is, again, an important part of the fluctuating realm of human emotions, and our joy does not come at the expense of others. Joy inspires more joy. Okay, only a few more topics left. This is kind of like career, figuring out life, post-university theme. Jade, how do you stay so seemingly consistent? Or is it just being type A? I mean, I am definitely type A, and I also think I'm very neurotypical, so it's worth saying those things. Firstly, I just want to say, of course I'm not always consistent, of course I'm not always positive, and especially throughout my menstrual cycle, there are phases where I can push ahead and I have so much energy and I'm so excited and full of life, positivity. And then there are weeks where I feel extremely low. I don't want to get out of bed. I feel anxious. Anxiety is an emotion that I feel very frequently. I just think I have very good coping mechanisms. I'm very disciplined with my coping mechanisms to help me deal with anxiety in productive ways. But yeah, just be kind to yourself. That is something I'm always trying to learn to do. Be kind to yourself. Be compassionate. Maybe you know the routines you need. Maybe you know that if you journal every day, if you meditate every day, if you exercise every day, that you will feel better. But if you haven't done those habits for a week, don't beat yourself up. That's life. That's winter, especially in England, right? This is a time where everyone is feeling lower. Everyone's routines are a bit worse. It's okay. Be compassionate with yourself. And I think a lot of my ability to stay consistent is I just don't beat myself up when I have gone off track. For me, I focus on how things make me feel. Exercise makes me feel better. Getting enough sleep makes me feel better. Showing up and doing the work that needs doing on my to-do list is an act of self-love because I make my future life easier. So focus on the feeling and don't berate yourself for inconsistency. How are you finding rediscovering yourself after university? Ooh! University and academics are so hard. Exams are so hard. Assignments are so hard. Academic work is difficult. But let me tell you, the adulting life is harder, not because the activities of it are explicitly more difficult. Sometimes working life is objectively much easier than having to write all these crazy assignments. But adulthood gives you existentialism. There's so much more comparison, questions about what to do with your life, questions of, are you living life to the fullest? Are you living it correctly? Are you living it in the way that you personally even want to? Do you even know what you want? And again, I'm just trying to be compassionate with myself as I navigate it, especially as a study YouTuber. I'm trying not to force myself to know what the next study tube is, what my next big branch of content is. And, you know, you could say, oh, Jade, but you're doing so well. You make like mindfulness content and you've got a whole podcast and it's successful and da, da, da. Like, I know that and I agree, but there's part of me that feels just very comparative, negatively comparative to what I sometimes see as the peak of my YouTube career, which was making study content and always just feeling in such a flow with what to create, and there was an ease to it. And now things just feel a lot messier and more uncertain, and I'm just trying to learn to embrace it, to be honest. How do you deal with feeling like you have to overwork yourself to feel good enough? Ooh, that's a great one. I actually want to bring up an anecdote from last week, or like 2 weeks ago. I was in Vietnam visiting some of my best friends from university, and it was such a special trip. I honestly loved it so much. So my management sent me this sheet of paper and it asked me to reflect on the year and to write down all my biggest goals for the coming year. What are your big dreams, Jade? What do you want to have achieved by December 2025? And I was really putting off doing it because I think I'm not in a very motivated period of life. I feel very lost. And so I sat down to do it on the day of the deadline because I've been putting it off so much. And I was in this cafe and I was like, what do I want to achieve in a year? And through doing these questions, I ended up sobbing in the cafe. I ended up feeling this huge weight on my chest because it suddenly felt like I'm never doing enough. It suddenly felt like everything I've achieved this year, you know, I can't celebrate it because I already need to be looking into next year. Like, I'm never working hard enough. I'm never doing enough. You know, Jade, why don't you have a newsletter? Yes, you have a podcast, but why not a newsletter? Oh, okay, you post videos maybe once or twice a week. Other people are posting them twice a week, 3 times a week. Like, you should be doing more. And I think there's nothing that robs joy more than thinking that you're not doing enough. And I'm so grateful because when I started crying in this cafe, my best friend from the next day, she took me to a lake and she sat me down and she said, Jade, I'm going to take you through an activity to release our inner critics. And so we got out our journals. She put on a timer for 15 minutes and we wrote down every mean thing that we tell ourselves. All the things of, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I feel like this isn't successful enough. I feel like this isn't getting enough views. I feel like I'm cringe. I feel like the acne on my face is ugly. La, 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 la. All the mean things that I tell myself. And then she forced me to say them out loud to her, to expose the voice inside me that is so critical. And again, I started crying because saying the things out loud that I say in my inner monologue all the time made me realize just how cruel I am to myself. And so if you feel that you are not doing enough, that you are ending this year not having done enough, please give yourself grace. I dare you to write down these narratives directly on paper so that you can read just how mean you are. You deserve to feel proud of yourself. You deserve to define what enough means and for that to truly, truly, truly be enough. I really recommend listening to the episode with Sahil Bloom as well about wealth. And towards the end, he discusses what enough means for him in his life and how he personally defined it. I just found that very useful because unless you define enough, everyone else in the world, society and culture will be defining enough for you. Okay, so many of you guys have been asking, Jade, how do you balance using social media as a tool for your work as a creator and the benefits such as community, finding content that genuinely benefits and inspires you, versus getting stuck doom scrolling, consuming brain rot, negative content, or just wasting time online? It must be extra hard for you because your job is also online and you must spend a lot of time on social media platforms. Guys, as a social media creator, I block my social media apps all the time. The default state of all of my social media apps is to be blocked. And I know that actually might be kind of like controversial and crazy because it is literally my job. I earn money from being an online person. And yet I know that to be doom scrolling for hours on end is not helpful. I know that social media can be a damaging place. And so I have this wonderful app called Opal. It's so much better than the Apple timer blocker thing. It's useless. You need to get an app. You need to get Opal. It's so good. I can only ever go on my social media apps for 15 minutes at a time. I can unblock them, 15 minutes, go do my scrolling, do my posting. And then if I want to continue going on it, I have to literally physically go to the app and unblock everything again. And I can only do 15 minutes at a time. And for me, just having that little bit of extra friction of the blocker has completely transformed my life. I remember reading loads of scientific papers in my cognitive science classes about how self-control is a lie. Self-control does not exist. Instead, we make decisions based on choice architecture, based on the way that things are set up in our life, based on the way that the apps are on our phone. We are inclined to make certain choices. So for example, if you're in the supermarket, you're waiting in the queue to go and pay for something, and they've just dotted these sweets in the aisle, in the queuing aisle, waiting for the cashier. You are so much more likely to buy sweets because they have architected your choice. You know, in that waiting zone, you're just going to quickly grab some sweets, pay for them at the aisle. And you can't blame yourself for making that choice because they helped you make it. So rather than feeling bad for not having sufficient self-control to stop scrolling in this infinite timeline that we have on our For You pages, realize that it's not your fault. Realize that the choice architecture is to keep you endlessly scrolling. It is literally designed to do that. And so you need to design some extra choice architecture for yourself to be able to combat it and get out of there. Get an app blocker. It will change your life. I also just wanted to say that so many of you guys sent in questions that are literally just you celebrating the podcast and being like, thank you, Jade, so much for like creating this space. And thank you so much for, being part of my Sunday morning ritual, my Monday morning ritual. And it just means the world. So thank you for expressing that. Okay, so for the festive edition of Casual Magic of the Week, I'm going to do my casual magic of the year. One special standout mundane moment that I remember as being something beautiful and that just made life worth living. Okay, so in August, I was going through a really tough time and had to make a decision between two things. A really important life decision, and I was slightly leaning towards making one choice, but I felt so lost, so indecisive, and I knew that it was only me who could make this choice. I couldn't enlist the help of anyone else. And so in a really desperate moment, I asked the universe for a sign. I said, please help give me a sign, help give me an omen that when I see it, I will know that I'm making the right choice if I go with choice A. And so I put that out there, and then I lived my life. And that night I went outside and I looked up and I saw a shooting star. I don't know if I've ever seen a shooting star before. Like, I very rarely see the night sky. Like, as I say, I'm a grandma. I don't really go outside at night, and I generally live in cities, so I don't really see the stars in general. But to look up and see a shooting star, and it wasn't a plane, it was a shooting star. I just had this like deep wave of feeling go through me that I was making the right choice and that was my sign from the universe. So that was a moment where I really felt connected to something higher. I felt connected to the world and very grateful, deeply, deeply, deeply grateful, and made me feel like the world is magic. And now we're gonna listen to one of you guys sharing your casual magic.
Hi Jade, my name is Lauren and I am from Toronto, known as Toronto, Canada. And my casual magic is that I get to every day sit in my room at my desk with my green tea, with the sun shining on me, and write my debut novel, which is something that I never thought I was capable of doing or that I was allowed to do because I didn't go to university for it. It also makes me feel really happy to write it because the character in my book has social anxiety, which is something that I have lived experience of. So not only is it really healing for me to write the book and get to see a future without social anxiety, but I also think it has potential to heal the readers of my book who also may have social anxiety and provide them some comfort in the moment.
Every week I invite you to reflect on your week, but Maybe this time I invite you to reflect on your year, to really do a year compass, print off that booklet and ask yourself questions. What you're most proud of this year, what has challenged you, what's been fun, what's been hard, and to maybe come up with one word that captures how you felt about this year and how you've grown the most. And then based on these reflections, to come up with an intention for your new year. What do you want to bring into this 2025? Who do you want to be? How do you want to feel? I don't know what my word is yet for 2025, so I'm not going to say it here. As I say, I'm doing this big reflection session on the 31st with my friends, so then I'll have a word. But please go away, do your reflections, honor what this year has been for you in the good and the bad. And finally, thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you so much. It just means the world that you're in this space of people who are so like-minded and who care about their growth and who care about trying to be optimistic in a objectively difficult world. And if no one has told you this month, this day, or this year that you are enough, please let me remind you right now that you are more than enough. You are doing enough. You are enough. Your mere existence as you navigate this world. You are trying. You're trying your best. And I hope that this festive season has had little glimmers of light and magic within them that make your life feel really worth living and that you feel excited to be alive. And may you step into this new year with your enoughness, with your aliveness, and I can't wait to see what it holds for both of us. I'm sending you all so much love. Stay tuned and stay magical. Bye!